Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the title and the intro, we're going over this firearm right here from the folks at Adams Arms. It is a nice, compact little 300 blackout AR-15, but it's not your traditional direct impingement system. This one here works on a gas piston system. Now, we have discussed similar options in the past many times, but the Adams Arms piston system is probably one of the most mature piston systems out there, at least the P2 system, which is what this particular one here is. And of course, we're going to talk about that here today, as well as all of the different features on this firearm. Now, I should note this one ships out as a pistol for most folks out there. I did go ahead and turn this one into an SBR, but hopefully we'll get our rights back again. You guys will be able to run braces. All of us will be able to run braces and not have to worry about that nonsense. But with that rant out of the way, let's head out to the range and come back and go over this thing tip to butt, so that way you guys get a good idea of what this firearm has to offer. So I suppose with that, let's head out to the range. Time to see what kind of groups we can get out of the gun. We have in there right now 147 grain Federal, so obviously supersonic, but not match or anything, just FMJ. The Vortex 1 to 10 scope on there, AR-30K. Other than that, I think we are stock. So let's get to it. Target downrange at 100 yards. All right, next up we have a couple subsonic loads. First one is going to be this one here, the Hornady Sub X, which a lot of folks asked me about, which is at 190 grain. All of this ammo, of course, comes from our sponsor. We're very glad to have them, the folks at Firearms Depot. Again, they make all this stuff possible by sponsoring the ammo here on the channel, everything besides 9mm, and we certainly appreciate it. Definitely check them out if you guys are looking for good deals or anything else, as they do have very, very competitive prices. Interesting, didn't lock the bolt back. But, so just to give you guys an idea, the point of impact shift is about 2 inches from supers to subs on that one. So then we have some 220 grain. This is some Freedom, so nothing fancy, and it is an open tip, but I don't believe it's matched. The box doesn't say it is, so just this heavy subsonic open tip load. All right, let's go check those out. As y'all saw, the drop there from those 220 grainers was a little more than 190. I wasn't really expecting that, but we rewatched the tape and I think I have it right. So with that 147 grain Federal, I marked them here with a line. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you guys have already seen the video, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But honestly, this overall grouping is probably one of the most accurate ARs and 300 blackout I've ever used, without question. So that one is just over 1 inch. It's at about 1 1/8 inches. And one thing I've said in the past, and I stand by with 300 blackout, is typically with most loads, as long as I'm getting 2 MOA, I'm happy with it. It just doesn't seem to group quite as well as 5.56, but in this case, it seems to have proven me wrong with this particular gun for sure. So right there, center to center with those Hornadys, it is under 1 inch. It's probably 7/8 of an inch center to center. So very good group on that one. And the 220 grain, I kind of circled it here. It opened up for sure. That one though is still center to center, just under 2 inches, so like 1 7/8 inches. So for 300 blackout, I will take that all day long for accuracy. It's the time you all have been waiting for, time to go tip to butt, especially those of you guys who are Navy veterans out there. So we'll start out here. And as the pistol ships, it does ship with a standard A2 flash hider on there, and it is threaded 5/8 by 24, so typical 30 caliber AR thread pitch. So your muzzle device options are huge. Basically all of your standard AR-10 or 300 blackout muzzle devices will work on there. We've been using the AR-30K silencer. It's worked great. We've had no issues with it at all. Continuing on back to the rest of the barrel, it is a 8-inch affair, 300 blackout chambering, of course. It's made out of 4150 CMV nitrided steel, and it does have a 1 in 7 twist rate. So I know the twist rates in the 300 blackout world get argued about all the time, but you guys saw the results out there in the range, so it does seem to work pretty darn well. It is sort of a heavy taper profile as well, which is something I like. Many of you guys know I'm kind of a barrel profile Nazi, and this is one I approve of. If you want something that can sustain a lot of fire and give you good accuracy, a heavy profile tapered down is a good one. So that way you're not have a bunch of weight out there on the end, like with a government profile barrel, for example. Now, for your benefit off camera, I have already disassembled this upper receiver, so that way you guys should be able to see B-roll photos that we're going to roll in. But the actual rail itself is a 7-inch M-LOK affair. It has nice open areas on the top, so that way it can vent heat out. And it does have M-LOK at the 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. It does have quick detach sling swivel points at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions, and those are anti-rotational. You guys should be able to see how it has actually milled into the aluminum there. That said, as I say here all the time on the channel, if you're going to do a lot of QD sling swivel insertions and removals, I definitely recommend just buying one of the aftermarket ones out there that are steel. You can get them for like 10 bucks, and putting it in one of the M-LOK slots, because that is going to give you more durability over time. That said, it is nice that they come with it from the factory, and it's nice that they're also anti-rotation rather, milled out. Speaking of milling out, the top there is T-marked, and it does have a standard Picatinny rail on there, but it is milled out to make it a little bit lighter weight overall, which I do like. Sights on these are the flip-up Chris sights. They work perfectly fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, and it does come with them from the factory. One thing that I did notice when zeroing it with the iron sights is I had to get it pretty high up in order to actually zero at 50 yards, which is what we zeroed this rifle for. But other than that, absolutely nothing to complain about. Nice and slim, compact. No issues at all in that regard. Now, getting into the piston system. Again, this is a piston gun. So one thing that folks always talk about with piston guns is how clean they are. And I've talked about this a lot in various videos over the years on the channel, but they are clean back here in the chamber, but they're not clean up here at the piston, particularly when you're running a silencer like we have been. So hopefully you guys can see some photos that we've rolled in where essentially what's going on with the operation, cycle of operation here, is the bullet's going downrange, some gas is getting siphoned off here at the gas port, and it is hitting our piston, which pushes back into our bolt carrier group and cycles the rifle. So there's actually no gas going into your action like there typically would be with a direct impingement style AR-15. So that is the benefit of it, is that it keeps everything back here nice and clean. It also keeps it nice and cool, which can have lots of good benefits for parts durability and things like that. The downside of it is that you are going to have some of that gas shooting off here up around where your piston is operating, and if you are shooting using a vertical foregrip or something like that, you're going to have black marks on your hand that are going to resemble the outline of the handguard. Ask me how I know. But that is just part of the trade-off that you have with piston systems versus direct impingement. Both, if done properly, can work very well. And speaking of that, this is the P2 system that Adams Arms is using here, and additionally they're using their pinned adjustable gas block, which is very, very good. So obviously it's pinned to the barrel, so that way it's not going to walk off on you if you have a high rate of fire. And the adjustable gas block, we'll roll in a little diagram here with the different percentages. Now I should note that throughout the time we've tested this rifle, I left it at the factory position just to kind of see how it would work as it comes from the factory. And we've been running primarily, probably 3/4 of what we've been running has been supersonic ammunition, and the rest has been subsonic ammunition. Just as you see it here, it has had 0 malfunctions to date. That said, it is a little bit punchy with the supers in that gas position. So if I was going to run supers exclusively, I would definitely dial it down a little bit. And it does have that ability to do so. And additionally, it has a bolt that goes into the actual gas block itself on the adjustment lever, so that way it doesn't move on you. It is a very good system. Now, if you want to actually take it out and be able to clean everything that's in there, you just turn it to the 3 or 9 o'clock position, and it will come right out, and you can clean your entire piston system if that is something that you desire to do. But we'll continue on back to the receiver set, take this thing apart, show you what the bolt carrier group looks like next. Before we get into the upper and lower receiver, one thing I do want to note is that when we're taking this handguard off, it did have thread locker on all of the bolts. The same is true on the gas block. So that is just a positive for the folks at Adams Arms. And of course, the design of this barrel nut that you see there, which is steel, is going to prevent it from rotating in any way. It's also not going to be able to move forward. It is a very solid design, but still works with your mil-spec upper and lower. So definitely dig that for sure. Verify that we are clear. And of course, we are. The upper receiver itself is mil-spec, so any of your components that you want to put on there, you certainly can do so. It does have, of course, our shell deflector here and our forward assist, which makes me happy. I love me some forward assist action. Now, one thing you'll note is that the carrier was trying to come back and it was making it a little difficult to get that off here, and we'll show you why that is here in just a second. But to remove the bolt carrier, you just do it just like any standard AR, and then take out our actual charging handle here, which is a Radian Raptor LT, an excellent charging handle, very, very proven at this point. It is ambidextrous, and it does have this gas busting portion at the top here. That said, with a piston gun, you really don't have to worry about it. That is one of the benefits of that piston action, is that you do not have to worry about gas getting in your face like you do with a direct impingement AR-15. Of course, some will come back through the barrel, but it's nowhere near as much as would come back through the actual gas tube on a traditional AR-15. So taking a look here at our bolt carrier group, we do have a full auto profile bolt carrier group, but it is trimmed down a little bit for weight. And of course, that just makes it a little bit less reciprocating mass moving back and forth, which helps reduce the felt recoil, if you will. Additionally, though, again, as we mentioned, it still has that full auto trip. Should we ever get our rights back, it will trip your full auto sear just fine. And then continuing to disassemble, it will take our cam pin out, which is just mil-spec. But one thing you're going to notice here that is different on our bolt is that we do have this spring back here at the tail of the bolt. Now, the bolt itself is made out of 9310 steel. It is MP tested, and of course it marked 556, but 556 will work just fine in 300 blackout as well. And the reason this is here is to prevent slam fires. So you'll note that we don't have any gas rings like you typically would on your traditional DI, and then we have that spring in there to prevent the slam fires. Now, what it will do is cause the bolt to try to move back, or the carrier, excuse me, try to move back when you are disassembling it, so just know that going forward. But the carrier itself is made out of 8620 steel, and all the components here have a nitride finish, which is a very good finish for any kind of bolt carrier groups. And of course, it's just not going to get as dirty. If you look at this thing, we have, I think, 1,200 rounds through this rifle at this point, and I mean, there's no carbon built up at all on the tail. If this was a direct impingement gun, there would be a lot for sure. Additionally, you'll note that here on the actual carrier itself, there's no, of course, area for the gas to go in. All that's happening is the piston, which is, of course, in your upper receiver. It's just hitting that and causing it to go back. And we do have a little bit of wear showing on there just from the actual impacts, but no issues at all, no deformation, nothing like that. It looks very good. Not mad about that at all. Continuing on to our lower receiver, one thing that I do like is that we have a generous flare on there. So more than, say, like a Colt or a mil-spec lower receiver would have. It does have a little bit of texture there on the front for those of you guys who are magwell grippers. If that is you, then you can rejoice in that. Then continuing back, we do have our Magpul enhanced trigger guard and large trigger guard, and the trigger that it does ship with is the Hyperfire RBT, which is a great trigger. Not mad about it at all, which is why you guys do see those anti-walk pins in there. But basically, you're just going to press a little bit, very, very short distance, and then the reset, very positive, very tactile, and basically as soon as you start pressing, you're at the wall on this trigger. I actually have several of these triggers. I do like them. For a single action trigger, or single stage trigger, excuse me, it's a very good one. Haven't had any issues with it at all. And looking in there, everything else is pretty standard with the exception of our ambidextrous safety. It is a 90-degree throw. And then moving on down, we do have a ergo grip. Over here, you guys might be able to see it. I might have to roll a photo in for you, but we do have a twice staked castle nut. So once here and then once here. So it's staked two places, can't be mad about that. And then of course the receiver extension is 7075 T6 aluminum, so mil-spec in that regard. 6 position adjustments are available on there. So that is your lower receiver. At this point in the video, I think we've covered most of the important points with a couple exceptions, a couple points we have to make, and then I'm going to talk about sort of my thoughts on it overall. So price point is always going to be important, which we will circle back to here in a second, just like we were Gen Psaki. But price point on it, MSRP for this particular option is right around $1,500. Now, Adams Arms offers a number of different lineups. This is kind of like their mid-tier lineup. They offer a higher tier lineup of their guns than this, and $1,500 is the MSRP street price. You can find it a little bit cheaper, of course. That said, let's talk about reliability. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but 0 malfunctions of any kind, right around 1,200 rounds through it of 300 blackout, which is not cheap. Again, thanks to our friends at Firearms Depot. but we didn't mess with anything, super subs, whatever, some unsuppressed as well, and we had absolutely zero issues with it at all. One of the things you have to think about when talking about a piston system is that you are going to have quote unquote piston pop if you're going to run it suppressed. That said, it's not bad on this rifle. Some rifles are worse than others, and honestly, I don't know why. As an example, probably the worst is the Steyr AUG out there. That thing is loud. This one is more similar to what you get with like AKs, where there's a little bit of piston pop, but it's not horrible. And definitely a silencer on this does help tame the noise for sure. But just know that that is a pro and a con. Now, speaking of pros and cons, if you look at the marketing material that Adams Arms is using, they're doing a lot of comparisons to like higher end piston system stuff that's been adopted widely by militaries across the world. And honestly, I think that's appropriate at this point. Now, when I did my original Adams Arms video, I don't even know, probably 2023, it's probably been almost 9 years, 10 years maybe, since I made that video. And I was kind of harsh about their piston system because their Gen 1 piston system needed someone to be harsh about it. And I was that guy. And so what was going on with the early Adams Arms, mind you, this is not used anymore. Hasn't been used for years. I believe the company has been purchased by a new ownership team since then, but the original piston systems had the problems that a lot of early piston guns had, where it was inducing carrier tilt, and there was all kinds of issues back here with scarring and things like scarring and marring, rather, I should say, in your lower receiver, in your upper receiver, and on the actual carrier itself. They went and completely revamped their piston system, and this one has no issues. I've seen zero issues of any carrier tilt issues, and again, it just runs a lot better and a lot smoother for a piston gun. Now, compared to a direct impingement gun, again, there's pros and cons to each. It's going to have a little bit more push when it fires rather, than your DI gun would. But again, some people really like the piston operating systems and the other benefits that we've already talked about. So I will leave that to you guys. But my point in saying that they're comparing themselves to a lot of other high-end piston guns is pretty applicable in my opinion. I like the charts. Hopefully I'll roll one in so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Because I do think at this point, with this current, P2 piston system that they're running here, it is a mature piston system and is ready for very high round count guns, hard use guns. And if that is something you're interested in, it's one of the cheaper offerings out there in the market that offers that kind of performance from what I've seen. So there is that. So I think that's pretty much it in terms of discussion of the gun. If you have any questions about this, anything else, you can always post those down below in the comment section. I should also note that, of course, they don't just make this option. They make plenty of rifle length options in lots of different calibers and have lots of different barrel profiles, all of those sorts of things. So definitely, if you're interested in that, check it out for sure. But yeah, if you guys like this type of video, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to see deals, updates, etc. on this rifle, because we are going to keep using it. We're going to fire it with that gas block dialed down to see how it runs in different configurations. Make sure you're following me on all my different social media networks, because that is where we post those things first. It takes a while to make a production YouTube video, not so much for social media posts, so everything goes up there first. I definitely recommend Twitter, Telegram, Truth. Those have been the best as of late. And then additionally, if you guys like this video and you've subscribed and you've hit the notification bell and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, then you are being censored by an algorithm. And to fix that, you can sign up for my email at the website here on your screen. This email goes out once a month, and it has all of the videos since the previous month's email went out. So that way there's no big tech giant censoring your eyes from my content. Again, goes out once a month. It's not spammy at all. And then if deals on anything on this rifle go out, like silencer, the light, the mount, the optic, the ammo, the gun itself, and deals on any of that occur, it will be in my daily deals email. The email goes out every day, as the name indicates. You can sign up for it at the website here on your screen, and it has 8 of the best deals that we find around the internet. If it is in that email on that particular night, it's the cheapest for that item anywhere on the internet that I know of, because I've done the price comparisons for you. So that way I save you some time and hopefully save you some money as well. Additionally, we put good memes in there. So if you guys are fans of good memes, you might just want to sign up for that. I mean, why not? And that's it, guys. That's all I have for you. Thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing all of you in the next video.